So here's what we're going to do. We are in Matthew chapter 1, actually. We're going to be in Jeremiah chapter 22, but we're going to get there by way of Matthew, Genesis, and Psalms. And you'll see where we're going after we read this from Matthew chapter 1. So I'm going to start reading Matthew chapter 1. This is chapter 1, verse 1. This is the very first section of the New Testament, okay? The record of the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers. Judah was the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Perez was the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Ram. Ram was the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon. Salmon was the father of Boaz by Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of David the king. David was the father of Solomon by Bathsheba, who had been the wife of Uriah. Solomon was the father of Rehoboam, Rehoboam the father of Abijah, and Abijah the father of Asa. Asa was the father of Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat the father of Joram, and Joram the father of Uzziah. Uzziah was the father of Jotham, Jotham the father of Ahaz, and Ahaz the father of Hezekiah. Hezekiah was the father of Manasseh, Manasseh the father of Ammon, and Ammon the father of Josiah. Josiah became the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the deportation to Babylon. That's this time of Jeremiah that we are in the scriptures right now. After the deportation to Babylon, Jeconiah became the father of Shealtiel, and Shealtiel the father of Zerubbabel, Zerubbabel the father of Abiud, Abiud the father of Eliakim, and Eliakim the father of Azor. Azor was the father of Zadok, Zadok the father of Akim, and Akim the father of Eliud. Eliud was the father of Eleazar, Eleazar the father of Mathan, Mathan the father of Jacob. Jacob was the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, by whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah. So that's the genealogy from Abraham to Jesus. And this is what the next verses say. And let me just add to this that I have a little bit of OCD in me and a little bit of ADD. And I love structure and organization. That is my thing. If everything just lines up in a row, I'm in seventh heaven. And if something is out of whack just a little bit, it bothers me because I notice it and I want to fix that. And there's something not right with this genealogy, and I couldn't quite connect what was wrong with this genealogy. But it all lies in verse 17 here. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. From David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations. And from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. So there's your structure, okay? There are 3 sets of 14, all of them divisible by 7. So you've got the number 7 in here 6 times. You've got Abraham to David, 7 and 7. You've got David to the deportation to Babylon, 7 and 7. Then from Babylon to Jesus, 14, which is 7 and 7. So what's wrong there? I mean, the structure is a nice, clean structure, right? 14, 14, and 14. You've got 7s in there. You've got 4 pillars. You've got it starts with Abraham, it ends with Jesus. You got David in there at the 14th pillar, and then the deportation to Babylon at the 28th pillar. And I'll tell you what's wrong with that is if you were to list the greatest names in the Christian faith, just out of the Bible, what are the biggest names in the Bible? Well, Jesus, number 1, and you could sure make an argument that Abraham and David are number 2 and 3. You might want to have the Apostle Paul in there. You might want to have Moses or Elijah. I mean, listen, there are some big names. So you're kind of it's not a given that Abraham and David are this number 2 and number 3 names in the Bible, but it sure is close. Okay, it's you could certainly make the argument that Abraham, David, and Jesus are the 3 biggest names in the Bible. But there's 4 pillars here, right? You've got Abraham, you've got David, then the deportation to Babylon, and then Jesus. It doesn't add up. There should be a 4th name or a 3rd name in there between David and Jesus. It should be Abraham, David, somebody, and then Jesus. And that 3rd person should be as big and bold as those other 3 names. But it's not. There is a name there, Jeconiah. Who is Jeconiah? Because he's that 3rd pillar of the faith. But there's something wrong there, because there's no great name there. Instead, the nation of Israel, or the nation of Judah, gets invaded, the temple torn down, the people taken away as prisoners and shipped off to Babylon. And that's the 3rd pillar. So what is the deal here? So I noticed something about those 4 pillars, and that something boils down to the number 22. Abraham saw the crucifixion. Now, when I say that, I don't mean he was at the foot of the cross watching Jesus crucified. But, Galatians tells us that the gospel was preached beforehand by Abraham. Where is that in the book of Genesis? Where does Abraham preach the gospel? Now, Galatians clarifies that he proclaimed a promise of the coming Messiah, and that there would be a blessing, but Abraham does witness the gospel, the crucifixion, the resurrection, in a sense, in Genesis chapter 2, when he marches up the side of the mountain with Isaac to present him as a sacrifice. If we go to Genesis chapter 22 and we read through that narrative, we see a pre-enactment of the crucifixion. Genesis chapter 22, it came about after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. He said, take now your son, your only begotten son. I think we talked about this here on a Friday night the other day. This is the word for only begotten son. Abraham had 2 sons, right? He had Isaac, and he had, let's see, Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau. Yes, so he had Isaac and Ishmael. He had 2 sons, but he says here, take now your son, your only begotten son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you. Now, does it come as a surprise to you to know that the land of Moriah is where Jerusalem was? And Mount Moriah is the mountain that King David bought, where Solomon built the temple eventually. There's a very specific place that God is taking Abraham and Isaac, and they are going to march up the mountain with the wood for the sacrifice on the back of Isaac, and they're going to go to a specific place which is distinctive looking because they'll notice it from a distance. And Jesus, of course, was crucified on Golgotha, which looked like a skull. That was the whole story about Golgotha, and goes up on that mountainside to offer his son as a sacrifice. Now, why would he do that? What kind of sacrifice? Well, I believe, and I'm just going to tell you, this is not so much a biblical teaching as much as a I believe teaching, but I believe that Abraham thought he was offering Isaac for the sins of the world. He was told that the whole world would be saved by his progeny, right? And here is Isaac. He's taking him up on the mountain. I think he believed that Isaac would be resurrected after he did this. I really think that that's likely and possible. But the point is, Abraham and Isaac pre-enacted the crucifixion right there on Mount Moriah. Now, we go to Psalms 22. King David is in the palace. He had a place where he liked to go, where he would pray and write his psalms, and that was on the threshing floor of Araunah, which is on Mount Moriah. That's where David would go, where he would talk to God, and God would speak to him, and he would write down these psalms, these songs that God would give to him, including Psalms 22. Psalms 22 begins with these words. Tell me if you've ever heard these words before, okay? My God, why have you forsaken me? Where have we heard that before? Jesus on the cross, right? He's quoting Psalm 22. Now, why is Jesus on the cross quoting Psalm 22? He's trying to get us to go look at Psalms 22 and see what's taking place right now on the cross. Here's what Psalms 22 says. Far from my deliverance are the words of my groaning. O my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but I have no rest. Yet you are holy, O you who are enthroned upon the praises of Israel. In you our fathers trusted. They trusted and you delivered them. To you they cried out and were delivered. In you they trusted and were not disappointed. But I am a worm and not a man, a reproach of men and despised by the people. All who see me sneer at me. They separate with the lip. They wag the head, saying, Commit yourself to the Lord. Let him deliver him. Let him rescue him, because he delights in him. Isn't that what they said to Jesus? Let's see if God will deliver him now, right? Verse 11, Be not far from me, for trouble is near, for there is none to help. Many bulls have surrounded me. Strong bulls of Bashan have encircled me. They open wide their mouth at me as a ravening and a roaring lion. I am poured out like water. All my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax, and it is melted within me. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaves to my jaws. And you lay me in the dust of death. For dogs have surrounded me. A band of evildoers has encompassed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. They look, they stare at me. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. What is David describing here? He's describing the crucifixion of Jesus in Psalms 22. He's on Mount Moriah, likely, and he is having this vision where God is revealing to him the crucifixion of Jesus. So Jesus is crucified on Mount Moriah, or near Mount Moriah, we should say at least. Abraham and Isaac see or pre-enact the crucifixion there. King David is given a vision of the crucifixion there. And this is the connection between those three names, Abraham, David, and Jesus. They all were on Mount Moriah, we can't say exactly where they stood, but they were all on or near Mount Moriah and saw the crucifixion with their own eyes. So let's go back to the genealogy. Got Abraham, David, Jeconiah, and Jesus. Jeconiah is no great hero of the faith. So where do we come up with this Jeconiah thing? Where does Jeconiah show up in Scripture? allow me to take you to Jeremiah chapter 22. Jeremiah chapter 22 in verse 24. As I live, declares the Lord, even though Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, wear a signet ring on my right hand, yet I would pull you off. And I will give you over into the hand of those who are seeking your life. Yes, into the hand of those whom you dread, even into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of the Chaldeans. I will hurl you and your mother who bore you into another country where you were not born, and there you will die. But as for the land to which they desire to return, they will not return to it. What happened? What happened with Jeconiah, who is called Coniah here? He was given the opportunity to be that fourth great name. Abraham, David, Jeconiah, Jesus. And he blew it. He sold out. He was the reason the kingdom fell. There were worse kings than him, don't get me wrong, but so much was expected of Jeconiah. He was put in a place where he could have achieved greatness by standing up to the Babylonian Empire, by restoring spirituality and God to his kingdom. But he sold out. And God sent Babylon to remove every man, woman, and child from the kingdom off into Babylon. Let me finish reading from Jeremiah 22. Is this man Coniah a despised, shattered jar? Or is he an undesirable vessel? Why have he and his descendants been hurled out and cast into a land that they had not known? O land, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, write this man down childless, a man who will not prosper in his days, for no man of his descendants will prosper, sitting on the throne of David or ruling again in Judah. That is the story of Jeremiah chapter 22. We find out just how bad man can go, just how low the people of God can descend. They were called to be God's people. He was the leader. He was the king of God's people. But he was a shattered jar, a despised vessel, written down as childless, whose nobody of his progeny would ever prosper. That is Jeremiah chapter 22. This is what the prophet of God does. This is what's so special about Jeremiah, Isaiah, Elijah, and Elisha, Ezekiel, who we'll take a look at next after we finish up with Jeremiah, Daniel, Habakkuk, all of these. They were the mouthpieces of God. They were the voice of God to the people. And when you are faithful, when God calls you and you are faithful, it's an amazing thing. He will stand behind you. He will support you. He will lead you along the way. He'll walk beside you, and he'll make sure that you get everything you need to be successful in that. But if you turn on him and you sell him out and the people of God with him, this is what happens. This is what becomes of you. So that's the message for tonight. That is my 22 message. Genesis 22, Psalms 22, Jeremiah 22. So that's it for tonight. We'll be back here tomorrow night. We're going to talk a little bit about this second half of the book of Jeremiah and get to some really amazing stuff there. So, all right, everybody. God bless each and every one of you. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you here next time on Digging Deeper Daily. God bless.